God, pastor, believer. God, your pastor, and a believer. A believer does not know much about God. So the relationship is broken. But the believer believed in God through the pastor. Pastor has a relationship with God. Now we have to change this formula. What is happening here is not good. So we have to change it. Because this person has no capacity to come to God direct. Na kusikia huko mahali mimi naweza nikaongea na Mungu direct. Si unaongea na Mungu direct na unateseka. Unajua unaweza ukawa unaongea na yule ambao unamuongelesha kusikii na hata kujibu. Mimi naweza nikaongea na Mungu direct. It is okay. Si unaongea na yeye na unateseka. Na umemaliza mfungo na unateseka. So haja gani tubishane? Si unisikilize tu. Hata kama wewe ni ujeuri, punguza ujeuri kidogo. So we want to change this. Your pastor must have close ties with God. Closer ties and stronger ties with God. Your pastor. When your pastor is closer do you see this? When your pastor is closer to God, you will always come closer to God. Pastor, what do you mean? There is this barrier here is broken. This barrier is broken. So your pastor and God speaks the same language. He has a close relationship with God. So whatever problem a believer has, a believer tells the pastor, and pastor communicates with God direct. And God will answer the believer. God will answer the believer because of his servant, not because of the believer. God has a relationship with the pastor. God has a covenant with the pastor, not the believer. That is why the believer goes to the pastor, pastor goes to God. But can you notice this relationship? These people live in one house. The Bible says, I will live in you, and you in me, and me in the Father, and the Father in me, and me in you. That's what Jesus said. So, to know whether your pastor has a close tie or close ties with God, what are the factors? to consider in knowing whether the pastor has close ties with God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What to do when you are in need? The fruits of his altar. You don't go to a pastor because he is wearing like me, or he is carrying a Bible, or he has a nice church. You will perish there. The fruits of his altar. When people go there when they are sick, healing, then any sick person go to that altar. These are the fruits, deliverance. When there is deliverance on that altar, go to that pastor. Blessings. What you liars fear? Prosperity. Prosperity is from God. You want people to prosper and God's people to live poor. Usiende mahali ambapo wanahubiri prosperity. We mwenyewe unaendesha gari na unataka washirika wawe maskini. Mwache kudanganya watu. Prophetic ministry. Ikiwa mchungaji akona, hizi ni matunda ya madhabahu yake. So consider these fruits of his altar. If these fruits are there on his altar, righteousness. If these fruits are there on his altar, please go to him. Go to him. Sio mavazi tulionayo. Sio kelele tunaopiga. Sio kelele tunaopiga. When you are in need, what to do? It is the pastor's relationship with God that matters. That is what changes the position and the work of his altar. The work of pastor's altar is determined by his relationship with God. So you as a believer, don't just go to any pastor. Please, consider these fruits of the altar. Then go to that pastor. If you are disturbed by demons, then go for deliverance. He will deliver you. When you need knowledge, go for a teacher. He will teach you. When you need healing, it is the pastor, his relationship with God, that will help you. It is not your relationship with God. God will listen to him and answer you. If God was to listen to you, you would have prayed on your own, sacrificed on your own. Do you know it is very important to consider where your sacrifice and your tithe goes to? When you as a believer, you give your sacrifice to God through a fake pastor, nothing will happen.